I just have all sinuses, so I can't really breathe a whole heck of a lot. So I'll attempt not to just go all podcast episode.
All right, and we're live. We're going out right, meow.
Oh boy.
Oh, yeah. Suppose I should.
What?
Oh, I'm going to be putting out the links.
Ah.
Good evening, Pod Squad. Jack is back this week to finally put this podcast back on track. It's week 9 in the NFL, and just when you think you had it all figured out, week 8 happened. That's right, hometown victories, upsetting rivals, and NFL records broken. Jack and Walters will cover all of this, plus all the fantasy news, streamers, and tater tot hot takes. The victorious POD starts right now.
We're gonna do this all again. So what up, Pod Squad? I did
Perfect.
this a second time. I muted myself and I told myself, do not forget to unmute yourself, but I forgot to unmute myself. So we're just gonna start it all over again. Say, hey, what up, Pod Squad? My name is Walters. Next to me, I've got Jack. Jack, what up? Welcome back, buddy.
Thank you. It's great to be back finally.
Right on, right on. Hey, I just want to thank everybody out there who is checking us out in YouTube. We have 5 current views right now. That is amazing. I don't think we've ever had that many at one time, so that is awesome.
Ooh.
Thank you to everybody out there. We will get to you guys shortly. I am Ryan Walters. Next to me, like I said, that is Jack Vickers. What we are is we are the Victorious POD. We are a fantasy football podcast and live stream that also is dedicated to our own fantasy football league, the Victorious Secret Fantasy Football League, the best football league or fantasy football league out there. I just wanted to give a big shout out to Garlic Johnson. Thank you, Garlic Johnson. You guys have helped me tremendously, and we appreciate you and Josh teaming up last week for an awesome podcast. We will get into that in just a little bit. I want to thank Levi Oki. He gave us this amazing artwork, and he's given us all of our banners, and he's actually done some extra work for me and my wife. So thank you very much, Levi Oki. If you're looking for an illustrator, please go to Levi Oki Illustrations on Instagram. Jack, it's been quite a week. How's it going, man?
Good. It's good. It's feeling much better finally being back. Taking a week off, it's tough. So I'm ready
Please
to get
don't
back in the
ever
swing
do
of
that
things
ever
and
again.
rejoin the pod squad.
Please don't ever take a week off. Ever
I
again.
hopefully I won't. I won't have to. It's a
was,
one-time thing I'm counting on. So
I wouldn't say it was a disaster, but I think I could have done better. I just felt flustered and I just felt out of place. Not that I don't like doing podcasts with Josh and Garlic, but it didn't have the same feel. So I'm really glad that you're back, and I'm really excited to get into this next episode here with you. Married life. You are now married. How was your wedding? Tell all the listeners out there how your wedding went.
yeah, it was good. It was a little chilly. I think it was like 32, 33 degrees the day of, and then the next 2 Saturdays it was like 40 and 60. So we chose the wrong weekend, but it was really nice. Snow held off, rain held off. The ceremony was real quick, so we got everybody inside real quickly to warm up, and the whole day was kind of a blur. It was over before it started, it felt like. So
Yep.
everything went great, and yeah.
Right on. Last week was my anniversary, so we are going to be sharing. Now I wouldn't say sharing, but we're going to be extremely close to our anniversaries are going to be very close together. It was an amazing first year,
Yeah.
Nicole. I couldn't have pictured a more. I wouldn't say it was a traditional year. It was definitely one for the record books. With everything that's going on in the world, it has been certainly very interesting. But my love for you is no less than it was yesterday. In fact, it's even more. So that is a good thing. We are going to be moving on here. Jack, you want to know how the crossover episode went? And I wanted to say it went okay. Like I said, it felt kind of weird. So there's one emailer. I'm sure you listened back to it. And if you haven't listened to it, go. This is the only time I'm ever gonna plug this for them. Go listen to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix. You can find them on YouTube. Okay, and you will see of course. Just actually, you don't even have to do that. Go back to our last episode. It's the same episode, and
There you go.
And you can see that whole thing. But there was a certain emailer on Josh and Garlic's podcast this past week that was quite bitter. That kind of had me going just a little bit. But in one of the group chats that I said, it's partially my fault because I wasn't 100% prepared. But the things that I did have prepared, I thought I executed brilliantly, and that is all that I can ask for. Show notes. Let me just say, Jack, that I am very appreciative of all the work that you put into our show notes, because it's a lot. It's a lot. You see these papers right here? This is like 12 pages of stuff that you and I put together so we can have this.
Hefty. Yeah.
I mean, you need a 3-ring binder. You need a trapper keeper, throwing it back to the old school from elementary school. So yeah. And then Josh had to endure technically a second time with our podcast, and I believe the week after he was on our podcast, he lost. So maybe he gets another loss this week. We'll have to find out. We'll have to find out. All right, we're done with all the chit chat. We're going to be running behind if we don't hurry up. So we're going to move on to the fan interaction zone. How you can interact with us. Right now is just the absolute best way is to get onto YouTube, hit up our chat. We respond to all of the people who are chatting us up. It is the best way to not only listen but view the pod, because we have graphics and stuff that we love to show you, and that's going to be included with our podcast. So please keep checking us out on YouTube. We are on Twitter at VictoriousPod. If you do not want to watch us on YouTube, you can find us on all of the major platforms minus iHeartRadio, but we are working on that. But you can find us on Apple, Google, you can find us on Amazon, you can find us on Spotify. We're on all those platforms. But our main hub that we get all those platforms from is from Anchor. And if you go to www.anchor.fm /TheVictoriousPod, you can leave us a voicemail there. And that is the preferred way if you guys want to interact with us. You can also leave us an email at victoriouspod@gmail.com. I'm not sure if we have any voicemails today. I know that you did leave a comment from last week's episode. Jack, what did you say? And actually, I'm going to throw this out there here real quick.
Oh.
Do you qualify as a fan? Like, you commented, like, and this is fan interaction zone.
I'm a fan of my own show, of course.
Okay, all right, perfect.
It's got me in it, so.
Right on. So do you want to go over what your comment was in the last episode?
Yeah, you were talking last episode about how it's no big deal how DK Metcalf is fast because you were showing yourself out about the off-season punishment where you had to run all the combine drills and stuff. So I said, hey, let's get it going. I think I put it on Josh and Gar's pod episode 2, and I was like, let's get a DK Metcalf versus Walters 40-yard dash. I told Gar, like, we could have you start at the 35 and him start at the 0, and we'll just see who wins.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I'm not that fast, and I'm in my mid-30s, so I'm old and pretty much almost broken. So I was trying to flex my funny muscle, which is very, 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 very small. But it was a solid attempt, and I thought I executed. I don't know how well people received it, but I thought I killed it. So, I liked it. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. This is actually will be a plug for go search Victorious Secret on YouTube, and you'll find the channel where you can see yours truly doing the combine drills. I'll see if we can actually somehow get a link to that as well. One last thing before we move on from the fan interaction segment. We have MIDI80. He is in the chat. I want to say thank you for hitting us up in the chat. Thank you for letting me know my mic was muted. He asked if he has 20 minutes to make a decision on if you should start Aaron Jones or not. I believe you should, because I believe all signs are pointing to that he is playing. Is that correct?
He is playing as of a couple minutes ago. I don't think he's going to get a ton of touches. It's not going to be typical Aaron Jones like you're used to. But Ben, just because I know what your team roster is like, I play with him in another league. So shout out to Ben. He doesn't have a whole lot of better options. I mean, you got to start your studs when you have them. So I think you have to. I just want you to temper your expectations a little bit. He's not going to go out and get you 15 to 20. So I think if he gets 10, you should be happy.
It's kind of the same thing with CMC this weekend, or I'm sorry, Christian McCaffrey, running back of the Carolina Panthers. I'm going to be starting him this week as long as he's going to be suiting up and playing. I don't know what I'm going to expect out of it, but I drafted him in the first round, and you play your first round draft picks. He is also asking, does he start Tannehill versus the Bears or Breeze versus the Bucks? And I'm going to say, oh boy, I want to say Tannehill, because I think the Bucks' defense is actually better than what the Bears' defense is.
Yeah, I would probably go that way too. I mean, Tannehill's like the 9th quarterback on the year, and Breeze is like 16. We don't even know if Michael Thomas is going to be back, and if he is, he's hobbled. Whereas AJ Brown's been lighting it up. So the Bears' defense is not what it was maybe a few years ago. They're beatable. So I think while both defenses are good, you gotta roll with Tannehill on that one.
I'd like to say that they do have a lot of They have a lot of passing options. Like even though Breeze doesn't have as many. Tannehill he can throw to Corey Davis. He can also throw to Jonnu Smith. So I would say that Tannehill, just because of the defense and the more weapons around him, I would say definitely go with him. All right, so we've got to move on here, and I see some more chats in there. We will get to you in just a little bit, but we got to move on. We can't answer everybody's questions. It's the NFL Bits and Bites segment. Yeah. Jack, what are we snacking on today?
For a little bites, I've got the Nature Valley Crunchy Snack Mix, granola trail mix, whatever you want to call it. These things are money. The quick little one biter. And as always, I got my Yeti cup here with my non-child beverages. So I'm rolling with some Crown this week.
Right on. I am starting my second can of Sweet Miss Oatmeal Stout. It is a fine beer. I'm a big fan of oatmeal stouts and dark beers in general, so we're just going to give this a little bit of crack. And then I also have Dots Pretzels, ladies and gentlemen. Delicious. If you can find Dots Pretzels, go get them. You will never stop eating them.
They're so good.
I know. So, yep. So, I'm going to be munching on one of them. And what's going on in the NFL?
Well, first off, I did listen back to the crossover episode, so I couldn't help but notice you picked the 2-minute drill over the NFL Bits and Bites segment. So I don't know if I should just keep it to 2 minutes and just zip it, or I don't know what you want here.
I figured that this was probably going to come up because there was a little bit of back and forth on the on the Hood Pod as well. You do you. Like I said, you're the one producing all of these notes. You're the one who is writing the show. And we are the Victorious POD. We are not the Hoodcast. So we're going to do what the Victorious POD does, and that is we're going to go around the NFL, Jack. So let's hit it.
All right, here we go. We got your weekly COVID update because, unfortunately, this is just one of my 3 bullet points every single freaking week. The Texans closed down their facility after one of their players tested positive. So as of now, the game has not been postponed, but we're waiting to watch that one. Matthew Stafford is on the COVID list again, second time this year. I believe he had a false positive earlier in the year. He doesn't have it yet himself, but he was in close contact with someone else who did have it, and he is in jeopardy of missing his game this week. So more to come there. 49ers have 4 players on the list. Debo, Brandon Ayuk, and Bourne, all 3 wide receivers, so they're down to their 4th string wide receivers, and Trent Williams, their left tackle. So several players once again. We don't have any more updates as far as what games are going to be suspended or postponed or anything, but as of now, players and teams to watch for. Second point we have is the trade deadline. So I had a whole segment geared up to talk about the big news that happened from the trade deadline. So in summary, that's it. Nothing exciting happened. It was really, really boring. And number 3, the big thing that I'm watching for this week and that a lot of people who've been fantasy football fans for years are watching is Antonio Brown is back. He joins the Bucs. They signed him a couple weeks ago. So waiting to see. He's actually already moved in with Tom Brady again, just like he did in New England. They're waiting to see what his fantasy impact is going to be and then just what his team drama impact is going to be. Is he going to be able to come in, do his job? Is there going to be any more fireworks and stuff? Can he actually last multiple games with a team? So waiting to watch there.
Here's the thing. And I can't explain it. I don't know Tom Brady. I wish I did. But Tom Brady loves Antonio Brown. And he I guess from what I've heard, he wanted AB. He wanted him in New England. And he wanted him in Tampa. So there must be something left in the tank. And there must be some sort of drive to be able to give Tom Brady the weapons that he needs to be able to make it back to another Super Bowl. So with that being said, is he going to be fantasy relevant this week? I mean, I don't know if this is a preview. Is it a preview of what we got coming up?
Yeah, it is. So we can get into that in a little bit.
Right on. We will do that. All right. So what is your game of the week to watch this week?
Game of the week to watch. You touched on one of the players a little bit ago, but the Panthers and the Chiefs are playing this Sunday at noon. There's a ton of great games actually this weekend. I was looking for a few to pick, and I think 8 out of the 14 games this entire week have matchups with 9 or more wins between both teams. So whether they're 7 wins and 2 wins or 4 wins and 5 wins, whatever. So there's a ton of like high level top end teams that are playing each other. So why am I picking this one? Honestly, just because Christian McCaffrey is coming back. You're getting the number one dynamic, electrifying running back to watch, who's finally back in the league, going up against Mahomes, who's arguably the number one exciting quarterback to watch. So I don't expect it to be a super close game. I think the Chiefs will handle this one just fine, but just you got to watch when you see 2 top end players like this going at each other.
I'm so excited for Zeke to come, or I'm sorry, not Zeke, for CMC to come back. I've waited so long. I mean, I've got two games out of him, which were amazing games, but then that high ankle sprain, just like yikes. So I'm going to be happy to have him back. All right.
Absolutely. And then the game.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, really quick. The game of the week I'm telling you guys not to watch. The Giants and Washington. Anytime there's 2 NFC East teams playing, are highly advised looking away because it's just disgusting. They both have 1 win, and there's not a whole lot of excitement to watch on either side of the ball.
Off the top of your head, who wins?
The Giants looked really good on offense against the Tampa Bay D last week, so I will probably go with them, but it won't be pretty.
All right, right on. Let's move on into our Vikings recap. The Vikings played the Green Bay Packers, and they... Am I high right now? It says that Minnesota beat Green Bay at Green Bay.
It's really weird because you're looking at the scoreboard and Minnesota's number is higher next to their name than Green Bay's is. So, like, what?
Is that like...
They
it's
did
not
win.
like golf where you want the lower
28-22.
score? It's not like golf where you want the lower?
Green Bay didn't want to use up all their points at
okay.
once. So they just kept it low, and then that was the goal. So they did a great job of scoring less points. Dalvin Cook dominated this week. For those of you that watched the game, it seemed like every time he touched the ball, he was just loose. He had 226 yards total and 4 touchdowns, which, fun fact, I guess he's the first player ever in the NFL to score a touchdown on each of the team's first 4 possessions. So every time they got the ball, he finished the drive with it. He's also the first Viking since Ahmad Rashad to score 4 touchdowns. And he's the first player ever to score 4 touchdowns and 200 yards at Lambeau. So lots of records there. On the other side of the ball, Devontae Adams had all 3 of Rodgers' touchdowns. It seems like he always puts up a huge game. He gets like at least 1 touchdown every single time he plays us. So we just cannot figure him out. Our defensive pressure was really good. We got to Rodgers more than we typically do, despite injuries to our defensive backs. I think we had like a couple of injuries coming into this game, and it seemed like we lost 3 different guys during the game. So there was a report after the game, I guess, that Thielen was on the sideline talking to the defensive coordinator, going through like pre-snap defensive calls and was preparing to go out there and play defensive back if we had another injury. So never a good sign when you have to have that happen, but cool little story. And our defense managed to make Rodgers and the Packers look human. So they only had 1 loss on the year against Tampa Bay, which is a great team. So having us beat them, I think, was a surprise for everybody involved.
Looking at it real quick, and I'm not sure. I saw the game. I loved it. But do you think we used the same tactic as what we used against Seattle, which was keep the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands? I know that in the first half, we only had 2 drives that ended as a touchdown, or ended up in touchdowns. But do you think we did the same thing to Aaron Rodgers that we did to Russell Wilson?
Yeah, I think that just needs to be our game plan going forward. I mean, obviously, anytime you have Cook going, you're going to have an edge, but not allowing the other team's offense to get in sync and getting their defenses tired. I think the less times that each team has a possession is a better chance for the Vikings, because the more we have it, the more mistakes seem to happen. So if we can just put the ball in the hands of our best player and let him work, I think we're going to be in a lot better shape than not.
So this is, we don't have to get into it too deep, but if this is going to be our game plan going forward, if we're going to be handing the ball off to Dalvin Cook, and that's what we're going to do, it's going to be like the AP years, do we need to have a $100 million quarterback on our roster?
No, we definitely don't. I mean, I think I was surprised that we gave Dalvin the money that we did this last season. Not that he doesn't deserve it, but I think after following up with how much you paid Cousins, it's kind of like seems like the Vikings can't really decide which way they want to go on offense. So if you do want to go with Dalvin and do the running game, I think you can get like a more short range accuracy quarterback, kind of like a Teddy Bridgewater almost, and then put more of your money into the line. Whereas right now we're paying all this money to a quarterback, but we're not using him. We're paying all this money into a running back, but we're not giving him the best holes and blocking that he can. It shows what he can do despite bad blocking, but like it seems like you got to go one scheme or the other, and we haven't really done a great job at that.
I just want to chime in real quick. Audio Al, thanks Audio Al for listening. He says, y'all didn't listen. Packers are 0-7 in the last 7 years on daylight savings weekend. Suck it, Josh. So
he did say that. That's true.
All right, that's all the Packer talk we're going to talk about. Let's move on to this weekend. We got Detroit at Minnesota at 12 p.m. Jack, what do you see in this game?
Yeah, it kind of sets us up really well for a good shot at getting back-to-back wins. Didn't really see this coming into the game, but Detroit is definitely a beatable team. Likely having Galladay out, and then it sounds like Stafford is going to be more than likely as well. So really their two only offensive weapons. I'm not sure who their backup quarterback is, but when your only other receiving threat is Marvin Jones and then TJ Hawkinson, the running game is, stoppable. So I think if they take those guys out, our defense can hold up, and then the Lions defense is nothing to write home about. So we should be able to do the exact same thing we did before with Cook ground and pounding it. But Cousins, I think, will have an easier day moving the ball as well. So I think we should be able to win. This is kind of the test of, you just beat the Packers, who are a top team. How can you not beat the Lions? So we'll see.
Right on. Let's move on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They played the New York Giants, and it was kind of a woof of a game. They almost lost to Danny Dimes. Score was 25-23. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I will mention it possibly a second time. Jack, what did you see in that?
Yeah, like you said, it was not pretty. I got real worried because I was having flashbacks of the Bears game where the Bucs had this handled and in control, and then it was set up where they were just going to do another 1-point loss. So I'm glad they held on. They're number one in their division currently, despite losing to the Saints week 1. They are half a game ahead of them. They're currently number 2 in the NFC, so poised to be set up really well for the playoffs there. Brady and the offense still looked really, really good. They did what they pretty much were expected to do against the Giants, but the defense is kind of what surprised me. I thought I saw a lot of big plays where the Giants were kind of allowed to move the ball at will or find some seams and just had these big receiving yardage chunks gained all at once. And so that kind of concerned me because their defense has really been shut down since then. And then overall, Mike Evans and Gronk both scored again. Nothing was really new there. They've both been doing that for multiple weeks now. Fournette kind of seemed to be like the guy over Ronald Jones, though, which hadn't been the case. So again, great when you have two different options like that, but I'm kind of waiting to see what's gonna happen there because it's tough to predict. Overall, though, win's a win, so I'm happy.
Right on. What is going on? Oh, I'm sorry. One question I want to backtrack. I was half paying attention since I was keeping up with all the stuff that we have going on. I want to go back, and I don't really remember, but I want to go back and say, and I want to bring up what I said about Rob Gronkowski first week, like when we did our season-long takes. Did I say that Rob Gronkowski would be a tight end 1 by the end of the year? I mean, it was something similar to that, wasn't it?
You did, yeah. It was something
it looked
like
really,
that. It was
really
either a tight end
rough.
1 or like a breakout or a...
Yeah. I mean, it looked really, really rough right at the beginning, but now that Gronk is getting the playbook, ingrained into him, and he's back, he's getting more into football shape and stuff like that. I'm so happy to see him and Tom Brady lighting it up. I don't know why, but Gronkowski is one of my favorite tight ends to watch. And he just is. It's just fun to watch him. So. All right, we're going to move on real quick. We're going to go to New Orleans at Tampa Bay, Sunday Night Football, 7:20. Jack, real quick, what do you see in this game?
Yeah, this is a big matchup. Like I just talked about, Tampa Bay is 6-2, New Orleans is 5-2. So rematch of week 1. It's the last time these two will play each other in the regular season. So both teams are looking very different than they did at the start of the year. Tom Brady and and Tampa are all finally in sync together. He gets Antonio Brown in a big week this week. Plus Godwin's supposed to be back. So, I mean, this is probably going to be the first week Brady's entire offensive weapon core is at full strength. Whereas week 1, he just did not look in rhythm. On the other side of the ball, Drew Brees gets Michael Thomas back probably this week. We've been waiting on it for a few weeks now. So I believe he played week 1, but he only had a line of like 3 catches for 17 yards. So is he going to look a little different this time? Will this supercharge New Orleans and make Brees look better? Or are they just going to stick with giving Kamara the ball the entire time? I think this is going to be a big game, though, for playoff home field advantage versus like a wild card team. So we're going to see. I'm expecting Tampa Bay to bounce back kind of as a revenge game, but it should be a high-scoring close one. So probably like a 31-27, something around there.
Okay, right on. We are going to be moving into our NFL Pick'em. Jack, what happened? Well, actually, 2 episodes ago, we did not do one last week. What happened?
True.
What happened this week? Or what's going to be going on?
Yeah, so last time we did it, I picked the Chargers over Jacksonville, and they won 34-16. So I moved up to 6-1 on the year for those of you that have been following. Walters, you picked Buffalo over New York Jets. Anytime you're picking over the Jets, it's probably a smart call. So you got the win there. So you are 2-5, but you're 2-1 in the last 3 weeks. So coming on a little bit stronger. This coming week, I follow your advice of picking over the Jets. I'm doing New England over New York. Picking what used to be one of my favorite teams before Brady left, but post Brady, they've kind of fallen apart. So after 4 straight losses, I believe the Patriots had, I'm pretty sure that this is about the best bounce back game you could have set up. So sounds like the Jets might not even have Darnold this week, and they're definitely not going to have Crowder or Rashad Perriman. So I'm feeling pretty confident they'll be okay this week. What about you?
I'm actually looking at it right now, and I don't think that I have picked Atlanta, and I am actually going to. It's probably an upset. I'm going to take the Atlanta Falcons over the Denver Broncos. I just think Atlanta's offense is too good, even though that I'm trying to figure out what's a wide receiver that might not play. Help me out.
Julio, Calvin Ridley.
Calvin Ridley, yeah. Is he supposed to play this weekend? I know he's injured, isn't he?
Yeah, he's questionable, but I think he's just had limited practice. So it's probably a 50-50, but he is sort of practicing.
I just think that offense is too good to just fail completely the whole year. So I'm going to be picking Atlanta over Denver, and that is going to be my Week 9 pick. Now, is there I see something here in the notes that a new player has entered the game. What exactly is going on?
Yeah, I wanted to find that soundbite for any like old retro video game players, like the Super Smash Bros. New character approaching thing.
Okay.
I wanted to get that coming up because I was kind of doing this to surprise you a little bit. But we have a couple of other people that want to play this because they saw how you were doing so far, and they were like, "Oh, I can catch Walters." So whether that's true or not remains to be seen. But we now have, as a surprise to you, every other major podcast host is now going to be playing the rest of the year with the sole purpose of trying to catch you.
Jesus.
So we have player number 1 is actually Dave Sousen, shout out, from the land of 10,000 plus goons. He is going to be picking the Texans over Jacksonville this week. And just to clarify, to make it fair, none of them wanted to take an advantage and say, "Oh, I get to pick any team I want." They all agreed to remove every single team that you had already picked so far. So there's no excuses. You got a 2-game lead the rest of the season. So we'll see. So Dave picked Houston over Jacksonville, which I would probably agree. That was one of the ones I was looking at too. Player number 2 is Audio Alcoholic, all the different numerous team names he has. He's picking an easy one right off the block, getting the Steelers over the Dallas Cowboys. So just making sure he at least keeps it within 2, if not closer. Number 3 is Garlic shout out from the podcast you were just on. And he is also taking the Texans over the Jaguars. And number 4 is Josh, who, to switch it up a little bit, is taking the Texans over the Jaguars. The weirdest part is I texted all of them this separately, and none of them knew the other ones were picking that game. So they all just, great minds thinking alike.
Well, thank you very much. I'm flattered that we're doing this. I think I'm flattered. I don't know. I don't know if that's a shot at me or if it's, I'm glad that we're getting more people
It's a
involved.
little bit of both.
Al, Dave, Josh, Gar, thank you for coming along on the ride and trying to embarrass me even more. So, if you embarrass me enough and tell me that I don't know anything about football, I just figured maybe I'll just quit this podcasting and stop giving football advice at some point if I get too terrible.
Don't do that. That's not the goal here.
All right, we're going to be moving on here. We're going to drop into our fantasy outlook. This is a section of our podcast that we like to just talk generally about fantasy players. After this section of the podcast is when we move into our Victoria's Secret and we get a little bit more in depth with actually what's going on in our fantasy football league. But we're going to start it off with injury prone, and I've been thinking about this for a long time, Jack. I want to get an opener for this just because I think it would be hilarious to have the sound of breaking bones and people screaming. So I just got to figure out when I can...
Like maybe the SpongeBob guy, my leg.
Okay, yeah, maybe. I mean, that's perfect. I'm glad we're doing this on-air production meeting, and I'll have to go YouTube it and see if I can find it. So we're going to be getting into injury prone. This is the segment where we're just going to talk about people who have injury designations or maybe out for the rest of the season, like this next guy. George Kittle, he's got a foot injury. He's out for at least 8 weeks. If they don't make the playoffs, he is going to be done for the season. Zeke has a hamstring. He's been limited in practice, but I believe that they're thinking that he is going to go. Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel is going to be out due to COVID tonight. Chris Carson, he's got a foot injury. He did not practice. He hasn't practiced this week. Aaron Jones is playing right now, so that doesn't matter. A.J. Dillon and Jamal Williams are out this week with COVID. Chris Godwin has a broken finger. He has been limited all week in practice. Devonta Freeman did not practice because of an ankle. Tevin Coleman has a knee injury, and he is out this week. Kenyon Drake with an ankle did not practice. Holy crap. Jimmy Garoppolo, another ankle, possibly out for the season. T.Y. Hilton with a groin injury did not practice. Alvin Kamara was limited this week with a foot injury. Jonathan Taylor is limited with an ankle injury. Mark Ingram with an ankle injury did not practice this week. I wouldn't play him anyway. Calvin Ridley with a foot did not practice. Myles Gaskin is on the IR for 3 weeks because of a knee injury. And Michael Thomas, ankle hamstring / being a baby, not getting along with his teammates, was limited in practice this week. And that was one hell of a list. Holy crap. It just doesn't seem like these injuries ever come to an end.
And I left people out. I tried to only do the fantasy relevant ones.
Yeah, I mean, all these players that we listed are fantasy relevant, so I'm sorry for the long-winded list of names, but I mean, that's just where we're at right now when we're in week 9 of the NFL. We're going to be moving on to Jack. Jack, what is your tater tot hot take? Actually, what happened the last episode that you were on?
Yeah, for those of you who didn't listen to the crossover one, I'll just cover this really quickly because you guys kind of touched on it. But this segment is one that I do every single week where I just try to pick ones that are a little bit outside the expected realm. So we're not projecting that Dalvin Cook has an RB1 day. We're trying to pick ones that are less likely to come true than more, but just kind of reading between the lines. So I had said that 2 weeks ago, Wentz was going to be a QB1 versus a beatable Giants defense, but he was missing Zach Ertz, Miles Sanders, half of his receiving core, as always. I was correct there. He was QB7 on the week, so that was huge. I also said in the Lions versus Falcons game that Julio and Galladay were going to combine for over 200 yards in the same game. I figured it was an all-passing attack. Didn't really have strong run games. There's no defenses on either side. I was correct. They combined for 203 yards, so right there. And then number 3, I said Kareem Hunt, who had a 5.7 point week, was going to bounce back to triple that with 17.1, which is 3 times 5.7, with 17.1 or more versus the Bengals. I just missed it. He had 16.2. So again, within a point, right on the line. 2 out of 3 ain't bad for some bold takes.
Yeah, you were close on that last one.
Yeah, right there. So looking at this week, tossing a few of them out there. One of them I am saying is Devontae Adams is going to be a top 10 wide receiver this week, and he's going to push for the number 1 spot in PPR leagues. I think he's just going to go off actually playing tonight and they're probably kicking off right now. So I think versus a depleted San Francisco defense, and we saw what he could do once he was back and fully healthy with Aaron Rodgers. Lazard's still out. Aaron Jones is going to be limited. I think they're just going to feed the ball to Devontae Adams. Number 2, a little bit of a bold one because obviously it's not shown in the rankings, but Antonio Brown, who is probably going to play limited snaps in his first game with the Bucs too, is going to outperform Michael Thomas because they're playing head-to-head this week in pretty much a return game for both of them. The reason I think that is because I just don't really like Michael Thomas, but also his one game this year, he didn't really do anything. People think that he got hurt during that game, but he got hurt at the end after posting 17 yards. So I wasn't a believer in him coming in. Speaking of your bold takes at the beginning of the year with Gronk, I said Michael Thomas wasn't going to finish in the top 3, 4, or 5 receivers, something like that. So was not a believer. I don't think he'll come back. I think it's tough when it's an injury thing, whereas Antonio Brown stayed in game shape. So I think Brown will probably squeak in a touchdown or something. And even if Michael Thomas gets a lot of looks, I don't think he'll have more than 10. So going with that. And then number 3, one that you'll like, I am picking CMC to pick up right where he left off with either 100 yards or 1 or more touchdowns. But that being said, that's not that big of a bold take. So I'm projecting that to happen. But also Mike Davis is also going to at least be a flex-worthy player. So I don't think it's going to be just all the CMC show. I think they're going to both be startable kind of going forward.
So Mike Davis is going to have, in a non-PPR league, you think he'll have 8 points this week?
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, you're not going to be ecstatic with 7-8 points, but I think you'll be like, yeah, okay, like that's enough for me to still win. So
that's
I
a
think
flex
he'll get
play.
a decent amount of receiving or rushing yards. Yeah, or maybe like a squeak in goal line touchdown, something like that. So
sure. All right, right on. We are going to be moving on to swimming upstream, and now this is the portion of the YouTube cast that is going to be beneficial for you guys because we have, boom, there it is. We have graphics. So graphics are really fun. We love tables. I'm a guy who loves tables, numbers, and all that sort of stuff. So we are doing our swimming upstream, and what you are looking at right now is the Week 8 top 12 quarterbacks. This is combined between free agents and people who are rostered. You can see that on the left and on the right. You can see the season-long quarterback rankings. Jack, why don't we just get started off with what you have in the notes?
Yes. So this past week, obviously I didn't play. I was out, but you, I believe, picked Derek Carr, correct?
That is correct.
Your pick? Okay.
Yeah.
So typically, for those of you that haven't seen this before, what we usually do is we pick one each week. It's got to be a player that is available in our league. And we're kind of just projecting or tracking how it goes throughout this year. So whether or not you'd be better off, not wasting high draft capital on a quarterback. Week 7, which was the last time that I picked one, I picked Justin Herbert, who ended up having 38.5 points that week. He wasn't just the top streamer, but he was the number 1 quarterback overall. So just shows there's a lot of points to be had out on the waiver wire. I think Gar mentioned this. I don't know why he was available. I couldn't justify picking up another quarterback and spending my fab, but he was a guy that should not have been dropped. So easy pick there. If you're looking on the left side, this is how quarterbacks did on week 8. Obviously, most of these guys are rostered, Mahomes, Wilson, Rodgers, but there were guys out there like Stafford and Phillip Rivers with over 22 points each that were available. Looking on the right, this is all of our points added up for each quarterback. So we have just the top quarterbacks overall for the entire season, like Mahomes, who's currently number 1 with 207.1. But then if you look down at the 4th spot, that is the stream, which is all of my picks every single week added up. Not counting my week last week, we'll just call it my bye because I realized if I got a 17th week, obviously I'm going to be ahead of everybody else. So easier just to take one out and make it even with everybody. But currently at QB4 overall in the entire league, I'm at 186.6. So QB4 compared to anybody else, it averages out to 26.6 points per game through 7 games. So I think most people would probably take that through their quarterbacks. Yeah,
that's pretty good. All right. I got another slide here for you. And actually, I need to do this. I need to do that, and we're going to transition. Now we can see a little bit better. Sorry about that, folks. All right. This is the Week 8 free agent quarterbacks. These are all of the free agent quarterbacks that were available to us. And you can just see this is from top to bottom how Derek Carr landed throughout. It wasn't necessarily the greatest game, but I think a lot of people are saying weather had a lot to do with that. So it's kind of what it is for right now, but that's okay. So we are going to move. We're gonna move on to this here shortly. Hold on. No, we got one more here. What's coming up next week for week 9? There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Did you want to pick your quarterback for this week?
Perfect. Yep. So looking at week 9, not a ton of great options available. I was probably looking at Stafford versus our Vikings' terrible defense, but with him having COVID, I don't know that he's going to play, so not picking that. I don't really believe in Foles. I think Cam probably has a good chance to do some rushing work against the Jets, but I'm also afraid they're going to be up so much that they'll probably just run the ball. So I am going with Ben Roethlisberger this week. He's kind of been so-so the last 4 weeks or so. I'm sorry. I didn't even go with Ben Roethlisberger for that reason. Ignore me, not even reading my own notes. I was looking at him, but I decided to switch last minute to, yes, Ben Roethlisberger. Okay, I'm all over the place. This is what happens when Jack's not prepared. A lot of great options, but Roethlisberger going against the Dallas defense, he's had 3 or 4 down weeks, but he's got a ton of weapons, and he's playing Dallas, who I believe is starting their 4th-string quarterback, and they haven't even decided which quarterback that is. So no way Dallas is putting up enough points. I'm pretty sure the Steelers are going to get the ball a ton and be able to do whatever they want. So while it could easily be on the ground, I'm hoping Roethlisberger gets 2 or 3 touchdowns and can probably throw the ball at will here.
Right on. Cool. We're going to be moving on to purchase or pass, so that means we can just transition back over to this camera here. How did we do last week? Actually, shoot. This is from 2 weeks ago. We're just not going to go over that stuff right now, just because I think I threw out one name in the crossover pod.
Yep.
But I don't remember what it was. And I don't remember how we did. I mean, because the other 2 didn't happen because Michael Thomas didn't play and CMC didn't play either. So, but the first one, I don't remember what the first one was. If you remember it.
Yeah, you covered all 3 of them, so I'm not super worried about it. So we can just go to the new ones for this week.
All right, cool. Purchase or pass for this week. Jack, purchase or pass the Cowboys this week. Either Garrett Gilbert or Cooper Rush. That's a hell of a football name. Has a better fantasy game than their 3rd or 2nd stringers, which means they are going to get more points than Dalton or DiNucci have had all season. And Dalton had 11 points and DiNucci had 5. Are you going to purchase or pass that the 4th string quarterback does better than the 2nd and 3rd string?
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy question that we're even asking. The Cowboys have not had a lot of luck here. They're going against the Steelers too, so it's definitely not ideal. I mean, it's not a quarterback that you'd ever probably even want to have to take the field, but I think 11 is a beatable mark, even for somebody who basically is coming off the streets. So I got to hope in some garbage time that they're going to get it done. I'm going to purchase that they beat at least 11 points.
I'm gonna... Yikes. That's such a low line, dude. That's terrible.
It is low, but it's the 4th guy, and it's against the best defense.
DiNucci had 5. I think he can do better than DiNucci, but I don't think you're going to be getting more than 12 points out of this guy. I mean, like you said, you're facing Pittsburgh, which is one of the best defenses out there. So I can't really do a half purchase. Can I? Can I purchase it and return it if I don't like it?
Yeah. Sure. You have to keep the receipt. That's the rule. But yeah, if you want to try to call your shot and say that he's going to have more than 5 but less than 11, if you want to go right in the middle.
I'm going to say right down the middle. Like, he's going to do better than DiNucci, but I don't think he's... Okay. I mean, yikes. So, halfway. All right. Number 2.
Okay.
Start number 2 for Tua is a charm for Tua. He had 93 yards last week, 1 touchdown and a fumble. Only had 5 fantasy points. He's playing the Cardinals this week. I would imagine he's going to get more than 5. I mean, 5 is such a terribly low number for a quarterback. Granted, he's a rookie. This is going to be his second start. I'm actually in our dynasty. I think I'm going to be playing the Cardinals defense against Tua, if I'm not mistaken. No, I'm sorry. That's actually in the Victoria's Secret league. I think I picked him up in one of those leagues, but I do think that he's going to be able to at least get double-digit numbers. I don't think it's going to be very good though. I'll say he probably gets over 13 points. So I will say that he. What is the chart? I mean, what's the threshold for this one here?
Do we want to say like 15 points or 13 points or?
I would say that
anything's got to be better than 5. But
yeah, I will say that Tua can get 13 points.
Okay. So you're going to go with purchase on that one?
I will purchase that one, yes.
I also will. I think the Cardinals have a fast-paced play of game. They're probably going to be ahead, so I expect Tua to probably have to throw. I'm hoping just, a little bit of rushing work, which was what he was known for in college, is enough. So I will go purchase 2 just because that's a pretty low line. And 5 was, I think, a surprise for anybody.
Right. Okay, moving on to number 3. Jay will not be alone in last place after this week, aka he wins and at least someone else will lose for him to actually catch them. And I'm purchasing that because I believe I picked Jay to win this week. So yeah, I mean, purchase on Jay getting another win. I mean, his team might actually be coming around a little bit. His playoff percentage is way out of there. I don't think he's going to have a shot at making the playoffs, but his team's coming around a little bit, and I think he's going to do... Actually, I'm going to say he's going to do just enough where he's not going to be the last place team this year. Hot take.
Oh, interesting. So somebody else will. Okay. There's 4 teams that are only 1 game ahead of him. I mean, there's a whole different thing with points and everything, so who's going to be above who, but I think there's plenty of chances for somebody else to lose this week, and I'm with you. I think Jay has a good chance. So a guy that was 0-6 or whatever it was, I think is going to have a 3-game winning streak and all of a sudden not be in last place after a little bit.
Right on. Okay, so we're just going to have the 3, but we had a last-minute submission for another purchaser pass, and I'm actually going to play the voicemail right.
Ooh.
Hello, governors. My name is Shannon Johnston, and I am the uncle of that little twit, Johnny McCormick, who called you last week. Say, I've got a little purchase or pass for you. Just curious if you boys think the Broncos can beat the Falcons this week. Both teams aren't looking too great, but the Broncos, I think, looked better last week. Falcons are dead. What do you think? Let me know. Thanks. Boy.
Thank you for the voicemail. I'm so happy that we have such an eclectic group of people who love listening all over the world. So thank you to them over there across the pond for listening to the Victorious POD. To go back, I picked Atlanta over Denver as my game as for our NFL pick'em. So I'm going to pass on this one. I believe that the Atlanta Falcons will beat Denver this week.
I probably do too. I really like Locke to do well, but I don't think that they're a team that's going to put up a lot of points, and their defense is not the Denver defense of a few years ago. So I think this is one of those weeks where like Atlanta's up and down. One week Matt Ryan has 100 yards and no touchdowns. The next week he has 400 yards and 3 touchdowns to Julio. So I think this is one of those weeks where they're just going to go off, and it won't be pretty on the defensive side of the ball for either team, but I'm going to go with Atlanta also. So however that purchase pass works out.
So you purchased it and I passed it. If that's the way the voicemail went, which I believe it did. Just real quick in the chat, Garlic Johnson, your boy Garlic Johnson, he was saying that last week the purchaser pass that actually was able to do something was the Melvin Gordon. I predicted him having like 13 points or something like that. Well, it failed. He did horrible. I don't have the stats in front of me, but he did not did not do well. So we are going to be moving on from purchaser pass to our water bet board. And Jack, what do we got going on for our water bet board this week? Jack, I can't hear you, buddy. I don't know what happened.
Let me click the mute button. That'll work.
Perfect.
Try this again. So I'll go over some of the old ones first, and then I'll toss out some new ones, and we'll see what sticks and go from there. So a couple of old ones to cover just recently. 2 weeks ago, we were betting whether or not Fitzmagic was going to get traded from Miami to the Cowboys, or just traded, period. We were both hoping the Cowboys, just for the fun of it. You said yes, he would. I said no. Sadly, I don't want to be right on this one, but I was. He is still with Miami, and it makes me sad. We bet on Calvin Ridley versus DK Metcalf rest of year. We started like 3 weeks ago. So just as an update through 3 weeks, Metcalf is at 30.4 and he's at a bye week, and Ridley's at 32, but has not had his bye week yet. So it's close thanks to Metcalf's huge week a couple games ago. Another one that's changed, the Vikings, whether they'll win 4 games this year. I said yes, you said no. I think this was back like week 4 when they were 1-3 or something. They got their second one, so we're halfway there. We're gonna wait and see. It's still kind of a toss-up. And then last couple of ones we did whether CMC would come back early enough to finish as an RB1 for the year. You said yes, I said no. He was the RB1 through 2 weeks overall, but now he's at RB40. He's supposed to come back, so I mean that's definitely enough time. He's only like 35-40 points down. We're gonna watch and see how he does coming out here. And then lastly, Benny Snell versus James Conner when they're both playing. Currently the matchup is 67.5 for James Conner and 9.2 for Benny Snell. So I'm feeling good there. As for some new ones, just going through those old ones quickly. New ones, I'm going to kind of just toss them out and see what you think. This is on the back of, and you can kind of elaborate more, but your opposite of love for Davante Adams in the group me chat recently. Davante Adams, I am guessing, finishes as a top 3 wide receiver in points per game for the entire year. So top 3, top 2, whatever you need to go. I'm very big on him. So
okay. What part, and I've wondered if this is going to come up because I almost thought about mentioning it in the intro that I stirred up some controversy here this week. What part of I think Davante Adams is an elite wide receiver he is an elite wide receiver. I believe that he is. The point that I was making, which I'm not exactly 100% wrong, just because it hasn't my point was that Davante Adams is a product of Aaron Rodgers. I'm not saying that Davante Adams is not an elite wide receiver, because he is. With Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball, Davante Adams is one of the best wide receivers in all of football. He is one of the best wide receivers in fantasy football, and I would love to have him on my team. The only thing I was pointing out, and it was more of a jab at Josh, just because Josh likes to talk his smack talk all the time, and most of the time it's been directed towards me, so I just had to let some steam out. And I was just being more tongue-in-cheek about it. If Davante Adams goes to another team, does he put up the same amount of production that he does with Aaron Rodgers? And the example that I used was Jordy Nelson. Now, I understand that they're two very different players, but with Aaron Rodgers throwing Jordy Nelson the ball, Jordy Nelson was one of the most electric fantasy football wide receivers out there. I mean, I tried drafting him after you already drafted him. Nope, that was somebody else, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't me.
It wasn't him. Okay. But my point being is that when Jordy Nelson went to Oakland, he did nothing. And how many years ago was that? Was that 4 years ago? Maybe 5? Like, it wasn't very long.
Yeah.
I mean, Jordy Nelson's
like that,
out of the league. Out of the league. I'm just saying that does Davante Adams do the same thing without Aaron Rodgers?
So I'll address the second part first, and then the first part, just my couple quick notes. Jordy Nelson, when he went to the Raiders, he was coming off of a pretty major ACL injury, and he was also, I think, near his year 30 mark. So to me, I wasn't as surprised. And also Oakland was more of a dumpster fire back then too. So that didn't surprise me as much. But I get your point that like he didn't work out. That being said, I think Devontae Adams is a significantly better receiver than Jordy Nelson, my own personal opinion, just from like the route running and athletic ability alone. So obviously every player is going to be enhanced or bettered by people around them. I mean, Jerry Rice is obviously phenomenal, the GOAT wide receiver, but he did have Steve Young and Joe Montana throwing them the ball. So I mean, like it's a symbiotic win. So I get your point, and I completely understood your point. I was just bringing this one up just to give you some crap, but I get what you mean. That obviously he is bettered by Aaron Rodgers, but that being said, I still think Devontae Adams is a wide receiver one, like top 12 wide receiver in fantasy and probably top 5 NFL wide receiver in most teams that he goes to. So I still think he would be a guy regardless. I just don't really agree with receivers needing to prove it on different teams or with different quarterbacks to show that they're the top. I think he's a top 2 wide receiver in the league, with me personally going him and Hopkins right there.
I would totally agree. Devontae Adams is a fantastic receiver. He just torched the Vikings for 3 touchdowns last weekend. I mean, so no disrespect. Just it was more of a shot at Josh, just trying to see if I could get him going. And not only did I get him going, I got the whole league going. So
it works.
Mission accomplished. With that being said, I'm not taking this water bet.
You're not taking, okay. So you do believe that he will be, or
yeah, he's fantastic. I would love to have him on my team, and I would love to have him on the Minnesota Vikings. So let's move on to our next one real quick. We got to go through
Moving on from that one. Yep, I'll rattle these ones off quick. Number 2, does Antonio Brown actually finish the year on the Bucs roster, or at least playing football? He's had a couple of years now where he's gotten kicked out of the league or suspended, or he's had his crazy tangents and disappeared into nowhere. So does he finish the season toeing the line in Tampa Bay?
Jesus, I don't know. Like, does he finally learn his lesson? Oh my God. I'm gonna say yes. I think last time he tried to be, I think last time he was in the NFL, I think it was kind of like a real wake up call for the guy. You know, he thought he was untouchable. He was a cat's meow out there in Pittsburgh, you know, being the number 1 wide receiver out there. And he thought that he could just go to any NFL team and just do whatever he wanted in that. And then outside of the NFL, he thought he was Antonio Brown and he could do whatever he wanted. And I think these last couple of years might have actually made him think like, hey, maybe I can't get away with everything. I think he's still going to be a diva. I think he's still going to cause problems, but I do believe that he is going to be able to not be stupid enough to get himself kicked off another NFL team. So I'm going to say that he can finish out on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers roster for the remainder of the season.
Well, I agree with you, so I'm going to get rid of that one. It's tough to bet against Brady for me, and I think he will be the driving force on it. If Antonio Brown was just on any team, I don't think he necessarily has learned his lesson, but there's been a lot of talk about actually Antonio Brown came out and said Brady's like the best leader I've ever been around, blah, 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 all that. And like, he's now living at his home again, trying to help him get acclimated and used to the system and used to just kind of being in the NFL. So I think Brady as a guiding force will help with that. And I think the fact that Brown can't just step in and be like, I'm the alpha, I'm the number 1. I mean, you're playing with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin who can hold their own. So the team's not depending on him to be the guy like maybe the Steelers were in the past, or Oakland definitely was. So like, he doesn't have that collateral to be able to say, you know what, do what I want what I want you to do. And then at the end of the day, I feel like just, you know, winning is going to help with that. He's going to be on a great team. He's on an NFC favorite currently, one of them. So, I mean, it's tough to be super upset when you're winning games. So I think I am with you on that one.
It's almost like the Bucs are a fantasy football team.
Number 3 and 4 are kind of related to each other. Yeah, exactly. Number 3 and 4, the last ones are kind of tied together, but the Steelers are the only undefeated remaining team. They're at 7-0. Do you think they make it to at least 10-0 before losing a game?
Yes, they will. I just looked up the schedule for the Steelers. This week they're playing the Cowboys, win. Okay. Next week they're playing the Bengals, win. Then they're playing the Jaguars, win. So they will make it to 10-0.
Okay. Is there a number that you think that they won't make it to? Or do you think they have a chance to go 16-0? I mean, like
No.
where do you think they're going to fall off? Because I feel like any top team always ends up losing to a crappy team.
They have to. I mean, if they really want to think that they can make it all the way to the Super Bowl, I think a team, especially good teams, need to be humbled every once in a while to know that they cannot just coast through an NFL season. It is very, very difficult to go 16-0. And looking at it, there's a couple games in here that I think will be. I mean, their schedule is very favorable, but I would have to think that the Ravens are going to play them really well here at the end of the month. The Bills in the middle of December should play them well, and I think the Colts will actually give them a run for their money as well. Maybe not an offensive explosion of games, but you have good defenses and you have two veteran quarterbacks who know what to do with the football. So I would say that those three games right there are the most likely games that they will lose. I will say, though, that I believe that the Steelers have a very, very high likelihood of being able to go 13-3. So that's kind of my prediction. It's 13-3 for the Steelers.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think just by the schedule alone, I don't necessarily think that they are the best team in the AFC. I think they're going to be one of the top two, but I think it's going to be them and Chiefs showdown, whether it's in the AFC Championship game or not. They still have to prove it against some top teams when they've had an easier schedule so far. So I'm with you there. Going to the final one, kind of an opposite flip side of the coin for records, but the Jets are currently 0-8. So halfway through the season, if I gave you a 1.5 win total, meaning they have to at least win 2 games, would you take the over or the under on that?
I would take the over.
Okay. I should have done my homework because I don't know what their schedule looks like, but I'm going to take the under. I say they'll win 1 game, but they're not going to win 2. So we officially have 1 new water bet at least.
Okay, right on. It's very hard to go
So
0-16 in the NFL. So
It is. But I think
and
they
you know
want
the main
to,
reason, and I'm gonna talk about this real quickly. The main reason why I think the Jets will win more than 1.5 games is because I do believe that Adam Gase will not remain as the head football coach. They are so god awful, and I think if they get a new head coach in there, they might have a little bit of extra life to be able to bring them to that over under of 1.5.
That is a great point.
So that is
Fair
that.
enough. All right. Well, we will see. We'll watch them.
All right, right on. Thanks everybody for that was probably the longest waterboard segment I've ever been a part of, and I'm sure everybody else was thinking the same exact thing. But it was fun. It was great. We went on a little bit of rant. It was fun. We had some personal opinions. It was great. We're gonna move on to the Victoria's Secret part of our show. If you guys are gonna stick with us throughout the rest of it, just know that we are gonna be focusing on our own fantasy football league here. But we enjoy you that you guys are staying, and we hope you enjoyed the content that we provided for you. Victoria's Secret news and notes. Last week we had side bets. We love side bets. Last week was Gronk's rebirth, which is the tight end closest yardage to 69. Congrats to Alex with Evan Ingram for 70 yards, almost dead on. If people are thinking like, hey, what the hell? Evan Ingram did not have 69 receiving yards. You are correct, but he did have rushing yardage that put his total yardage to 70. So that is why Evan Ingram had the yardage closest to 69 yards. This week, it is right on the mark, I believe is what it's called. And it is the team that is closest to their projected total as of a Thursday night start. So whatever the projected totals are as of tonight is what you will be going off of with that. Jack, do you have a guess on who it's going to be?
Yeah, these last few have been kind of toss-ups because they're not easy to predict. It's not like a strength of position. So I looked at teams that didn't currently have somebody as on a bye in their lineup because that's just going to skew it, and people that weren't starting somebody injured because I'm afraid like if you start Stafford and then he ends up not playing, your projection's way off. So I went with Cassie because she's one of the only teams that has a fully healthy lineup.
Okay, right on. And I will.
Which fun fact. Good. Sorry.
No, you got it. Go ahead.
Fun fact, I was just going to say, for all of the people playing the fantasy football pick'em this year, there have only been 2 of us that have guessed a side bet winner correctly, which just shows you how fluky it is. Shout out to Tyler. Me and Tyler have each gotten one right in separate weeks. So completely a shot in the dark.
Right on. I will give my side bet winner. Actually, it was me. I picked myself. I always pick myself in these fluky things. There's no rhyme or reason to it, so I'm just going with me. So, all right, we are going to be moving on to the Jack of all trades. There were no trades this week, which is fine because we don't really have time to talk about it anyway. So we are going to get into our very next segment. We're going to actually do that again. All right, so I'm sure you guys could hear that a lot better. Alex, he changed his name to Wham Bam Thank You Lamb, which is CeeDee Lamb, which is solid, but I've heard it before. I've seen it before, but it is clever, so great job with that. Jay, he was rebranding with back-to-back wins to Got Raheem. So, Jay, thank you for changing your name and still playing along, even though you had the worst start of any fantasy season owner or whatever like to have. All right, we're going to be moving on to our noteworthy ad and drops. Fun fact, as always, Foster and Cassie are both bankrupt. Hold on.
I declare bankruptcy!
Cassie, speaking of which, she spent all of her money this week. Cassie spent $25 on Marvin Jones. She also spent $20 on Mecole Hardman. Ben Williams, he spent $7 on Dexter Williams. Jordan spent $0 on Cam Newton. Foster spent $0 on Robert Tonyan. Foster spent $0 on AP. You can get AP for $0. What am I doing? I should have picked him up. Christian Kirk, $0. Jordan Reed. Christian Kirk was picked up by Jack for $0, and then Jordan Reed was picked up by Foster for $0. We are going to be moving into our victory formation here real quick, and I'm just going to be trying to get that set up. Just give me just one quick little second here. Doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop-doo. No, thank you. And that's the one we want. And transition. Perfect. All right. Last week, I'm going to switch over here real quick. All right, last week we had Katie versus Cassie, Battle of the Chicas. Katie got beat 66.2 to Cassie's 88.5. On Cassie's side, she had Ryan Tannehill had 17, James Conner who had 12, Damian Harris had 16, Tyreek Hill had 21, Cooper Kupp had 11. Over on Cassie's side, she had Justin Herbert with 21.2, Alvin Kamara was 16, and that would do it for the high scores for Katie. Jack, what did you see in this matchup here?
Yeah, most of Katie's typically really consistent team was a huge letdown this week. If you take out Herbert and Kamara, everybody else combined for 28.7 points. So that's pretty rough from all your running backs, receivers, tight ends, defense, all that. Cassie, with her fifth straight week below 90 points, which is not ideal, but she got the win this week. So win's a win. That's all that matters. Her team is very, very consistent. I'm kind of starting to wonder, not that we can see Katie's bench, but she does have Lamar on her bench. And with how great Justin Herbert's playing and how kind of a letdown Lamar has been this year, does she continue to start Herbert the rest of the year? So I'm going to kind of be watching with that, with Lamar letting her down big time.
Right on. Yes, Lamar, trade away or not trade away? Who will buy it? Who knows? We're moving on. We've got Jay versus Alex this last week. Jay put up his second win in a row. He scored 99.1 points versus Alex's 84.3 points. Over on Jay's side, he had Aaron Rodgers score him 22.5 points. He had David Montgomery score him 10.5 points. Jamal Williams scored him 12.2 points. His defense scored him 18 over on Alex's side of the ball. Alex had a rough day. He had Mike Evans, who had scored him 11.5. Giovanni Bernard, that's a great play. He had 19.8. And his kicker, I always call it Young Ho, but it's not Young Ho. Is it Young Wei? Or how do you pronounce his kicker?
Yes. Yep.
Young Wei?
Young Wei Koo.
Young Wei Koo. Those were Alex's three best starters. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater got him 12 points, but that's not really worth mentioning much. Jack, what did you see out of this?
Yeah, Jay, like we talked about before, back-to-back weeks with wins. He almost got 100 points this week, so his team was pretty balanced overall, and it's looking better than I think a lot of us thought. So shout out to Jay for proving the haters wrong. Alex, rough week, but I think a lot of it was just due to his bye week. So I think his team's solid, but he was missing Kyler, Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, and still didn't have Michael Thomas. I know he was really hoping to be able to play Michael Thomas against Jay, who traded him to Al. So bummer, but next week you'll have all your guys back. And then Jay getting it done with a lot of backups on his side. So if you look like Jermichael Hasty, T. Higgins, Trey Burton, Jamal Williams, I mean, shout out to Jay for being knowledgeable and knowing the guys. But then also it just shows how weird this year is with, tons of starters going down and how important having depth and then making the right roster moves are.
I would agree. Nice job, Jay, on your second win. Moving on, we got Jordan versus Foster. A low-scoring matchup. Foster pulled it out, though, with 78.5 points to Jordan 71 points. Over on Foster's side, Derrick Henry had 17.2. Wayne Gallman had 12.2. His Dolphins defense had 23. And then over on Jordan's side, Myles Gaskin had 10.3 points. Gus Edwards had 14.7. Keenan Allen had 12.7. Travis Fulgham had 13.8. And that will do it for the numbers. Jack, what did you see in this matchup?
Yeah, it was an ugly one. Foster got a very lucky win here. He had the third lowest score of the week, but he played the second lowest score of the week. So did what you needed to do to win, played some good defense. He jumps up to 500 while Jordan is just in a free fall after 3 straight losses. And the last 2 of his were by single digits. So just brutal. Jordan has had by far the worst luck this year, in my opinion. So Jay, don't at me. I don't want to hear it. Jordan's lost Miles Sanders, Austin Eckler, Mark Ingram. Plus now he just found out that he lost Myles Gaskin for 3 straight weeks. I don't know how he's going to be able to make the playoffs with all these losses. But if he does, his fully healthy team is way better than I think most people realize. So this is not a team that the rest of us want to make the playoffs because he'll get healthy at the right time and just smoke people. And then on Foster's side, second down week, he had 2.7 combined points from his top 4 wide receivers. And that includes Kenny Golladay, Chris Godwin, Adam Thielen, and then Nelson Aguilar. All of them but Thielen had 0 points, but Thielen got 27 yards, so he got a whopping 2.7 points. Like I said, though, Foster didn't enough to get the win. Big question is going to be his team's health moving forward. He just lost Kittle for the entire year after giving up Julio and Hurst, and now he's got issues with Golladay being hurt. Godwin seems like he's hurt every single week. Like, his team is really, really good, but is it going to be enough to stay healthy to win?
Right on. We are going to be moving on here. We're going to be moving on to me versus Josh. I lost to Josh again. Second time this year. Sucks. It was 87.3 to 97.6. On Josh's side of the ball, he had Patrick Mahomes had 36.6 points. He also had Brandon Ayuk score 15.1. His Colts defense scored him 15, and Will Lutz scored him 13. Over on my side of the ball, it was pretty rough. I had Robert Woods score me 21.4 points. That was nice. Travis Kelce scored me 16.9, and that pretty much does it. Josh Allen is really making me nervous right now. What better way to have a bounce back week than to play the worst defense in the NFL against Seattle? We'll see if Stephon Diggs has been doing pretty well. I wish he would have gotten me double-digit numbers, but 9.2 ain't bad. He's been pretty consistent all year, so I can't complain much about Stephon. I would just like to see Josh Allen be a little bit more consistent with those nice points. It's really starting to scare me. Jack, what did you see in this matchup here?
Yeah, other than you talking about Josh Allen, which has kind of been a bummer so far. On Josh's side of the ball, he had Mahomes go off for 36, but then pretty much all of the rest of his running backs and receivers were kind of a letdown except for Ayuk. So I think without the Mahomes dominant game, this matchup looks a lot different. But just goes to show Josh has a ton of playmakers that could go off any given week. And then on his side on his side's running backs, both Zeke and Ronald Jones. I mean, Zeke's been downhill since the Cowboys have gone downhill. And then Ronald Jones losing touches to Fournette. Are they both headed for regression? They've both been lights out to start the year, but that would worry me if I were Josh. On the other side of the ball with Walters, with you, Melvin Gordon, he's been a lot less efficient than Philip Lindsay. Lindsay's looked way better, and Gordon's kind of had a few meh weeks. So kind of some things to worry about for running backs on both sides here.
Yeah, it's been tough. I was hoping to be able to pull out a win against Josh, bring him down a couple pegs, but wasn't able to do it. If I see him in the playoffs, hopefully I can get revenge on him. So we're going to be moving on. We got Tyler versus Jack. Jack never had a chance. Tyler scored 132.44 points to Jack's 91.2 points. Over on Tyler's side of the ball, Russell Wilson had 28.7 points. Dalvin Cook had a measly 46.6 points. Julio had 13.7. Curtis Samuel had 17.4. Tyler just had a massive day out of two players. Jack, I'm sorry, you just never stood a chance. Over on your side of the ball, though, you had Tom Brady. He scored you 19 points. That's nice. Josh Jacobs scored you 12.9. Justin Jackson had 14.2. Allen Robinson had 14.7. Rob Gronkowski had 10.1. I mean, overall, you had a really nice showing, but that monster showing of Dalvin Cook and Russell Wilson just absolutely just torched you. What did you see in your matchup?
Yeah, not ideal. I'll take 91.1 most weeks. I feel like 90 is kind of the threshold where you need to at least hit that to expect a win. We all know things happen differently, and you can get a win with 75 points one week, but 90 is kind of where you start feeling good. But you play the high score at 132, and there's not a whole lot you can do. 91 was actually my highest score since week 4 when I had that 150. The last 3 weeks before that, I've kind of had a letdown, but I've lucked out and gotten 2 out of 3 wins. So this week I outscored 7 of the other 11 teams, and I was within single digits of cracking the top 3, but did not get the job done. So Tyler's team looks really, really scary, in my opinion. I think it's scarier than Josh's, even though Josh is ahead of him right now. I think Tyler's is the scariest team, just with Russell Wilson and Dalvin Cook looking like MVPs at their position this year. Like you said, Cook had a record-setting day. Plus, Tyler has the no-name pickup and start of the week, starting Curtis effing Samuel. He got 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, and Tyler's texting me all these smiley face emojis like, "Oh, did you see that? Oh, I hope you're not watching the game." I'm like, you son of a family-friendly show. Double digits from 5 of my starters, but letdowns with starting T. Higgins and then Le'Veon Bell were not ideal. I really, really missed having Joe Mixon and then OBJ, who I lost for the season this week. So hoping I can bounce back next week.
Right on. Yeah, hopefully you can. We're going to be moving on to Ben versus Ryan. Last week, Ben beat Ryan 101 to Ryan's 80.2 or 80.3, excuse me. Over on Ben's side of the ball, let's see here. DK Metcalf had a massive 28.1 points. Jared Cook had 11.1. His Eagles defense had 19. His kicker had 15. Other than that, the rest of Ben's team really didn't do much with those scores out of the defense and the kicker. I mean, really propelled him to be able to crack 100 points this week. Over on Ryan's side of the ball, Joe Burrow had 18.9 points. Over his running back, Todd Gurley, had 10.6. His wide receiver, Devontae Adams, had 23.3. Tyler Boyd had 13.6. So Ryan, his main lineup being able to do better than Ben's, but just didn't have enough to pull out the victory. Jack, what did you see in this matchup?
Yeah, the fact that Ben got a win here despite a 1.7 point performance from his QB is insane. I mean, Ben puts up 101 points and he gets less than 2 points from your quarterback. Like, this should have been 120, 130 point week. So Ben's team also very scary. Letdowns from his running backs, both of them, and his wide receiver too, but Metcalf, his defense, his kicker, kind of carried the rest of the way. Ben's been doing this without Aaron Jones and Nick Chubb. So, I mean, it's another team that is going to get better at the worst time for the rest of us. So on Ryan's side of the ball, he's getting hurt again by CEH. I mean, this was a huge letdown week for him. He just has not been what everybody thought he was going to be. I mean, he looks really, really good. He's efficient on the ground, but he's not getting the scoring opportunities, and he hasn't had any big blow-up weeks. So that hurt, but obviously Devontae Adams looked great and should be rock solid for you the rest of the year. And then Gurley has 8 touchdowns through 8 games. So, I mean, he's getting production in other places. This was just kind of a letdown week for him, but should still be a solid team.
Right on, right on. All right, and that is going to do it for our matchup recaps. we are going to look at our standings here really quick. You can see them up on the screen. We have 4 teams that are at 4-4, 4 teams that are at 3-5, and then the other 2 teams who are up at the top. I'm sorry, that's not right. That is probably from last week. So we're just gonna go off of what this picture says. Josh is in first place at 7-1. Tyler's in second place at 6-2. Ben is in third place at 5-3. Oh, that is right. I'm sorry. So the notes were right. Jack, you were correct. So we have Foster, Ryan, Jack, and Cassie all at 4-4. Then we have Katie, myself, Jordan, and Alex. We're all at 3-5. And then at the bottom at 2-6, we have Jay. So, things are, even though they're starting to separate out at the top and the bottom, it really feels like the middle is just still super condensed. And this is exactly what happens each year in our league. Going into the playoffs, it literally comes down. I mean, I know it's like that in every league, but I think I'd have to say probably half of our playoff spots, we get 6. Half of our playoff spots are up for grabs going into week 13 in our fantasy league. So things are still heating up. The races are getting closer and closer. I guess I just don't have any more words for Jack. Do you have any thoughts on these standings right now?
Yeah, no, just like you said, I feel like we talk about this every year, but this league is always really close. I feel like even the fact that Josh is 7-1 is an outlier. Usually that's not the case, but I mean, our last place team is literally 2 games out of 4th place right now, because the 4th place team is 4-4 as well as 3 others, and then the following 4 teams are all 3-5. So it's like it's anybody's game. Literally, Jay could win 2 games and be a top 4 seed in the playoffs. So it's always a toss-up. Never give up. This is why we make sure everybody sets their lineups and why everybody stays involved and why it's great, because even when you have a terrible year, you're still in it. So
yeah, that is right. Yeah. So I mean, we're just not going to know until after the regular season's over with who's going to get all those playoff spots. And we will, I think we're going to start trying to do that here within the next couple weeks. We're going to try and, because it's coming up. I mean, playoff time is, before you know it, is right around the corner. So we're going to be moving on to our fantasy pick'em. For our standings this week, Ryan is still in first place. He has 40 points. Jordan, he is now up to second place after the last 2 weeks collecting 13 points. He now has 37. Katie and Cassie both have 35. Alex moves up a little bit and gets 32 points. Jack is dropping down to with 31 points. Tyler is way behind with 25. And if Tyler's way behind, I am 37,558 light years behind everybody else with 19 points. I'm not doing well, but that's all right. It's something for fun, and we're gonna move on into our matchup previews. If you got anything else,
yeah, no, I think we're good to go.
all right, we are going to transition over to that, and we're gonna switch over to first matchup. If I can get it, there we go. We have Alex versus Tyler this week. Excuse me. Tyler has the 16.5 point. He has the advantage right now, according to ESPN. Russell Wilson, Dalvin Cook, Chris Carson, Julio, and DeAndre Swift for Tyler all have the advantage at those respective positions, which means that Mike Evans and Evan Ingram for Alex have the advantage at those positions in this matchup. Jack, what do you see in this matchup?
I see a whole lot of Tyler winning. I'd be surprised if anybody's really not picking him here. No disrespect to Alex, but Tyler's team is just on fire, and he has everybody pretty much healthy. So Alex could be playing for his season here. He's trying to avoid 3-6, which I feel like 6 losses is about right on the edge of you have almost no chance of making the playoffs. If you're 7-6, you're probably like barely having a chance to get in. While Tyler's trying to stay right behind Josh and get the win here to either catch him or be 1 game behind still. Alex is going to be really hurting this week. He's got Kareem Hunt, AJ Green, Daryl Henderson, and Gio Bernard all on bye, while Tyler, like I said, is basically at full strength except for Debo, but he's got good enough options without that. The big question for Tyler's side is going to be whether Chris Carson plays. You've got good options beyond that, but Chris Carson, I know, is one of your guys. He's one of my favorite guys too, so it's a big one to watch there. I love Tyler's matchups for a couple of his guys like Russell, Dalvin Cook, Julio, but not so much for Swift or Curtis Samuel, so I'm really hoping you bench him for John Brown if John Brown's healthy. Meanwhile, Alex's side, I really like both his Washington Twins. So Antonio Gibson and Terry McLaurin, both versus the Giants. They can't stop anybody. And then Kyler versus Miami. But I think his other two wide receivers, Mike Evans and Michael Thomas, are probably going to be disappointments compared to what they typically are. They're going to be playing against each other head to head. So I am picking Tyler to win this week.
You're not the only person who picked Tyler this week. Everybody picked Tyler. That means Alex, Cassie, Jack, Jordan, Katie, Ryan, Tyler, and myself. We all picked them. Let's see here. We have Cassie and Jack. They picked Tyler as the side bet winner. And Ryan Herman and myself both have Tyler as... I got to try and find it here. Where is that? I know it's here. Here it is.
Stone cold lock of the century.
On the way.
All right, we are going to be moving on. We have Walters versus Jordan. I am right now. Jordan doesn't have his lineup set, but even if it did, it wouldn't matter. I am a 36.5 point favorite according to ESPN. It is just ridiculous. I hold all the advantages except for the wide receiver 2 in the flex position. So it is it is looking like it is going to be a bloodbath in favor of me. Jack, how do you see this matchup going?
You guys are both 3-5. You both definitely need a win bad because you're, I believe, both on 3-game losing streaks, which both these teams are a lot better than that. So really could use a win for either side here. I think Walters might get his boy CMC back this week, like we've been talking about, who could honestly be the savior of your season. It might be enough to turn it around and make the playoffs here. Along with a Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs stack combo versus Seattle, which I'm loving this week because they have a terrible pass defense. So I think that could be your key to get Josh Allen back on track and just double the points every time. Rolling the dice, starting Antonio Brown, it looks like, as your wide receiver 2. That's interesting. I think he has a good chance to get like a touchdown here or there, but beyond that, I'm wondering about his snap count. And then Jonnu Smith in your flex. I personally like Darius Slayton way more, so that would have been my pick, but I get it. Jonnu Smith's been good for most weeks here. I just personally would bet you that Darius Slayton's going to outscore Jonnu Smith this week, so that's just my thing. Jordan, I don't even know if he's going to have enough players to start a team. So his only healthy running backs left are Zach Moss, and that's it. Everybody else is hurt, so I really don't know unless he picks up a no-name person who he's going to start. I know he had to play Corey Clement against me a couple weeks ago, so maybe the same situation there. I do like Keenan Allen and Cam's matchups, though, like I talked about before, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Jordan's team is good, but I think he's going to get bad luck and unfairly get another loss this week, so I'm picking Walters.
Right on. The Darius Slayton, Jonnu Smith, it is up in the air. I just had to put one in. The thing about it is that Jonnu Smith, he gets targets. As as somebody, receivers, tight ends, when you're looking to play, you're looking for players who are getting targets. And with who is the guy over in New York now that is injured? He's not going to be playing. The wide receiver.
Golden Tate, Sterling
Yeah,
Shepard.
Golden Tate. Yeah, Golden Tate with him not playing, Darius Slayton and Sterling Shepard are going to be seeing more targets. Now, who's going to get more? Is Darius Slayton, he is your downfield guy. He's going to be your big play guy. I think I'd almost rather have Sterling Shepard in this situation, but Darius Slayton definitely is no slouch when he gets the targets. So we'll see how that goes. All right. We are going to be moving on. Excuse me. We are not going to be moving on. I want to go back real quick. The people who picked me, there were 7 out of 8 players who picked me. And who did not pick me? Oh, that was Ryan. Ryan Herman did not pick me. Ryan Herman picked Jordan. Otherwise, Alex, Cassie, Jack, Jordan, Katie, Tyler, and myself. We all picked myself. Like I said earlier, I picked myself to be the side bet winner. Alex and Jordan and Tyler, they all picked me to be their
Stone Cold Lock of the Century.
All right, now we can move on. We're going to be moving to Cassie versus Josh. Josh is the 7.1 favorite here against Cassie. Josh with Patrick Mahomes, James Robinson, Mark Andrews, and Ronald Jones. They have the advantages there. Over on Cassie's side, James Conner, Tyreek Hill, Marvin Jones Jr. Those are the advantages for Cassie's matchup. Jack, what do you see in this matchup?
Josh basically gets his full team back, full strength here versus Cassie, and she's down Cooper Kupp and Kenyon Drake, so not ideal. I think James Conner, though, is going to dominate against Dallas for Cassie, and I really like Marvin Jones versus Minnesota with Galladay out. Sucks that he probably won't have Stafford, but I think he's going to be the only option against a bad pass defense that got worse and injured last week. Starting Mecole Hardman and Tyreek Hill kind of worries me because they're receivers for the same team on the Chiefs, but I get it. I have to assume that she's doing it because she knows she's going to need to score points against Josh, and the high upside play of either one of them could be enough. If you're going for like safety, like high floors, you're probably not going to beat a top scoring team. So smart strategy by her. Josh has Mahomes to help cancel out those wide receiver points, though. So I think like no matter what her top players do for wide receivers, Josh is going to get part of those points. So it's going to kind of hurt her having an edge there. I love his wide receiver matchups. He's got Hopkins against Miami and Deontay Johnson against Dallas, who both can't stop anybody. But Mark Andrews versus the top Colts defense scares me. So does Zeke versus Pittsburgh. I don't think this is going to be a top-end scoring performance for Josh, but with Cassie having kind of low scoring totals lately, I think it'll be enough for Josh to win. I think overall the MVP of both sides of this matchup is going to be James Robinson. Gardner Minshew is out for Jacksonville. They're starting like Luton, I think is their quarterback now. So they're going to run the ball a lot, and it's against a bad Houston defense. So I think Josh is going to be able to ride James RB1 season all the way to a win this week.
Right on. I picked Cassie in this matchup, and the reason I picked Cassie is because I believe James Conner will be able to bring her to the promised land that she needs. Not saying that her other players aren't going to have good games. I think Ryan Tannehill, he's got a tough matchup, but he's going to put up a decent game. But James Conner, I would say if you're looking at 4 starting running backs on this matchup, James Conner is going to be the running back who is going to put up the most points than any other running back in this matchup. And James Conner is going up against Dallas, so they just have an atrocious defense. And Pittsburgh, if Ben Roethlisberger does what he does in the first half, all they're going to have to do is rely on James Conner in the second half, and I believe that James Conner is sitting on a massive, massive game, which is why I am picking.
And that'll help me for guillotine.
Yeah, I'm picking Cassie in this one. I'm the only one who picked Cassie, so that means Alex picked Cassie. Cassie also picked her. Jack, Katie, Jordan, Ryan, and Tyler also picked Josh. I'm sorry, they all picked Josh. So Alex, Cassie, Jack, Katie, Jordan, Ryan, and Tyler, they all picked Josh. Katie picked Josh to be the
Stone Cold Lock of the Century.
Alex also picked Josh to be the side bet winner for this week. The next matchup that we have here, it is Foster versus Ben. Ben is the 6.1 favorite. Deshaun Watson, DK Metcalf, Jared Cook, and Justin Jefferson are on Ben's team, and those players get the advantage at those respective positions. Over on Foster's side, Derrick Henry, Wayne Gallman, and Adam Thielen. Those 3 players will get the nod there in that matchup. Jack, what do you see in Foster versus Ben?
Another key matchup this week. A lot of good games here for people that are very close in the standings or need the win or whatever. They're both 1 game apart from each other. They've also both have had kind of some rough injury luck lately. Foster's lost Kittle and Galladay recently, and then Ben, like I mentioned, has had Chubb and Aaron Jones out for a few weeks. So Foster starting Derek Carr versus the Chargers worries me because there's really no other option on his team, but I don't think Carr is a quarterback you want to rely on week to week. He's more of a matchup play. And then Godwin with his injury plus having Antonio Brown coming in. I mean, I think he's still a guy you got to start, but I don't love the matchup this week. I do, however, love Derrick Henry going against the Bears. I think they're, like I said, not a defense that is to be feared like they were before, especially against the run. They've let up a few 100-yard games this year, and I think Derrick Henry is going to probably put up 15 or more. That plus Adam Thielen and Robert Tonyan going against the Lions and the 49ers, they should torch both of them. On Ben's side, Deshaun Watson should have a field day versus the Jaguars, and Metcalf always has the potential for 15 or more points. Fun fact, he's done it in 5 out of 7 games this year with 15 plus. But McKinnon is kind of a toss-up because you don't know how the 49ers are going to use their running backs. And then A.J. Dillon being out, obviously, I would hope that he puts somebody else in for him because Aaron Jones is starting tonight too. And then Amari Cooper has been mostly miss for the hit or miss type of play. He's been almost nothing since Dak went down. If I were Ben, I probably would start Justin Jefferson over Amari Cooper, and then I'd put A.J. Brown in my flex, but that's, just me. If Ben does find a defense, though, this week, which it looks like he's put somebody else in now, I think Ben's team is going to have a better chance, but it's going to be close, so I am picking Ben.
Right on, right on.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
We're following breaking news right now.
Big breaking news from DC.
Breaking news
Good
right
afternoon
now.
From New York. We're coming on the air with breaking news story.
Beginning the work we got with multiple stories breaking overnight.
I have been waiting and waiting and waiting to use this. Not super huge fantasy news, but I think it is fantasy relevant. I'm sorry, not fantasy relevant. It is newsworthy enough to be able to put it out there. The sources say, and this is according to the Fantasy Life app, sources say that the NFL will fine the Las Vegas Raiders $500,000 and coach John Gruden $150,000 and strip the team of their 6th-round pick for the COVID-19 protocol violations related to offensive tackle Trent Brown's positive test in late October. They're saying that escalated fines and the pick were due to being a repeat offender. So,
Yep.
COVID-19 affecting NFL teams' drafts now. What are your quick thoughts on that?
I mean, I like it. I think Gruden has repeatedly not worn his mask when they've flat out told coaches you need to do it, you're going to get penalized. And then I guess there was a positive test for Trent Brown and they didn't really follow protocol for it. So it's pretty clear stuff. It's not like the same level as cheating. So I'm glad they didn't do like a 1st-round pick or anything. Like they just did like the 6th, but I think the fines are important. So good to see the NFL is kind of being strict with that. I just think it's easy enough to follow what they're asking you to do. So whether you believe in it or not, do what the protocols are telling you.
I would agree. COVID-19 is real. You got to follow the protocols. All right, we're going to be moving on. We have Honky Tonk Badonka Gronk. That's a mouthful. So that's Jack versus Katie. Jack, you are the 9-point underdog, 9.5-point underdog to Katie this week. Katie's got Justin Herbert, Alvin Kamara, David Johnson, Will Fuller, and Chase Edmonds having the advantage in this matchup. Over on your side, you have Allen Robinson and Rob Gronkowski with the advantages at their position. Tell me, what do you see in your matchup?
Same deal as the last matchup here. 2 teams that are 1 game apart, and we really both need a win. I'm at 4-4 or 500. Katie's at 3-5. So both of us dropping down to 1 game below would really hurt our playoff chances here. Me losing OBJ for the season, and then I don't have Mixon this week, but what else is new? Because I haven't had him for the last 2 weeks either. Those 2 are not ideal. Katie's pretty much at full strength, which is also not good for me. It looks like is probably going to be benching Jonathan Taylor this week, even if he is healthy enough to play, but that makes sense against a Baltimore defense, which is amazing. And she has 3 other solid running back options, it's tough to say in this league this year, especially. So, Kamara versus Tampa Bay is probably the key. He's been amazing, lights out, a top running back this year, but they're really good against the run. So maybe I have a chance if they can key in on him, especially if Michael Thomas isn't a big threat. Her other 2 starting running backs, David Johnson and Chase Edmonds, both have really good matchups against Miami and Jacksonville, who have no run defense. So not looking good there. On my side, being forced to start Justin Jackson, who's been decent, but then also Le'Veon Bell and DJ Chark doesn't feel great. but all three of them surprisingly have actually pretty good matchups this week. So could get lucky if any of them have some kind of a bounce back game. That being said, I've liked Katie's team throughout the entire year. I've been a big proponent of hers, so I think she's going to win and tie me in the standings. And there you go, Katie. Don't say I never gave you anything.
Right on. So we got 2 people out of 8 people in our fantasy pick'em who picked you this week. That'd be Alex and Cassie. So that means that you picked Jack picked Katie, Jordan, Ryan, Tyler, and myself. We all picked Katie. Jack, you also picked Katie to be your
Stone Cold Lock of the Century.
Oh, the way.
All right, we are going to be moving on to, I believe it's our last matchup, if I'm right. Yes, I am. All right, it is our last matchup, which is Jay versus Ryan. Ryan doesn't have a lineup set, so it's going to be pretty tough. So Jay is the 24.5 point favorite as of right now. He's got Aaron Rodgers, David Montgomery, Marquise Brown, Trey Burton as the advantages on his side of the matchup. Over on Ryan's side, he's got Todd Gurley, Devontae Adams, and Tyler Lockett having the advantages for him at this position. What do you see in this matchup right now?
Yeah, we've talked about it a bunch. I feel like he's the team we've talked about the most this episode, but Jay's fresh off back-to-back wins, so can he make it 3 in a row after starting 0-6? A lot of us, I think, are pretty curious to see if he's going to kind of come back or not. He gets Rodgers versus a depleted San Francisco team tonight. I think he's already got 2 touchdowns in the second quarter, so doing well, but I'm worried about the rest of his team's matchups beyond that. David Montgomery versus Tennessee is decent, but Jermichael Hasty is a question mark. You don't even know how the 49ers are going to use their running backs, and he has not gotten most of the work tonight. Fournette did well last week, but it depends on how they're going to use Ronald Jones again. Plus, he's playing against a good New Orleans run defense. His wide receivers are both kind of boom and bust options, so they each could have a 50-yard touchdown, or they could both just get like 7 or less points, which I think is all they've averaged so far is about 7. Ryan on the other side, like you talked about, he doesn't have a quarterback or a tight end, and Boyd's on bye. He doesn't even have the quarterback or a tight end backup option on his bench to play, so I don't know who he's going to find. I hope he's realized this already, because he could have picked somebody up earlier versus getting kind of the leftovers, but he's going to have to play backups either way, so that worries me. I do love Devontae Adams and Tyler Lockett this week. Shout out, Adams already got a touchdown like the first drive of the game, but I don't know if that's going to be enough depending on who else he finds for his other positions. Those are not really positions you want to stream after everybody else has had their pick, so I am picking Jay.
Right on. I'm going to be picking Jay as well. So 5 out of the 8 players in our pick'em picked Jay. That's Alex, Cassie, Jack, Katie, and myself. Cassie is picking Jay to be her
Stone Cold Lock of the Century.
Oh, the way.
Which means that Jordan, Ryan, and Tyler picked Ryan to be the winner of this matchup. We are going to be moving on to our last slide here, and you can see all of the matchups. You can see all of the picks. You can see the Stone Cold Locks. You can see the weekly side bets all up there. If anybody wants to just hit pause and stare at that table there for a little while, they can, but you don't have to. This is simply for the league and league members who are playing this game to see who everybody has picked this week. All right, with that, we are going to be actually transitioning back over to this here, and we're going to be heading soon into our outro, but we have just a couple of things left to talk about. Jack, let's talk about our Dynasty League real quick here. What's going on in our Dynasty League?
Oh, we're going Dynasty League first. All right.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay. We'll go back to the other one after. Dynasty League. It was a great matchup this week. The pod came to a civil war, so I played against you, won 91.4 to 80.3. I won't get into a ton of my individual players because nobody else really cares. As far as the standings go, somehow I'm alone at 7-1 and in first place. I don't understand how that is because I don't feel like my team is dominant. I've shown a couple other friends my roster, and they were like, how in God's green earth are you 7-1 with that team? It's been consistent. I think I'm like top 4 in points, but I'm not running away with it by any means. I play Crasp, who I don't know who that is. I think that's a guy that Alex and some of the other people know, but he has Malcolm Brown, Darrell Henderson, Jarvis Landry, and his defense all on bye, plus Kittle hurt, so I'm feeling pretty good. I'm missing Wentz, Mixon, and Boyd, but I think his team's kind of decimated, so I'm feeling good for this week.
Right on. Last week, I was a complete idiot because I don't know how to use Sleeper yet completely. My fumblings somehow caused me not to start my defense, which I had the Miami defense sitting on my bench, which had 25 points, which is...
I appreciate that.
I would have won. I'm pretty sure I would have won.
Yeah, you would have won by like 4.
Piss me off. This week I'm playing Foster. You want me to beat Foster because you have his first round draft pick? I didn't realize. What did you
Yes.
trade? What did you give up for his first round draft pick?
At the start of the year, Foster is probably the only person in our league that likes David Montgomery more than I do, and he really wanted him. I drafted him. And he said, okay, what do you think about David Montgomery for Tyler Lockett? Because I told him I needed a receiver. And I was like, I mean, I like Lockett a lot, but my running backs are worse. And he was like, well, what if I gave you a first-round pick? And I was like, okay. So now I have Lockett in a first, and he has David Montgomery in my third, which obviously has worked out better for me hindsight. But, yeah.
Right on. We're going to get into Guillotine. Last week, week 8 elimination, that would be Larry Walmau. He is Jordan's uncle. Week 7, Kurt was gone as well. We did not cover this last week. Larry had a very solid team on paper that was hurt big time by injuries. He averaged 111 points per game. The available players this last week were Russell Wilson. Foster bought Russell Wilson for $215. Jack was the next highest at $80. That is huge money for Russell Wilson. Lamar Jackson went to Jack for $30. CMC went to Josh for $562. Jack was the next highest bid at $375. Gurley went to Kevin for $100. Jerick McKinnon went to Jack for $55. Damian Harris went to Jack for $48. J.K. Dobbins went to Jack for $45. Kenny Drake went to Jack for $25. Galladay went to Foster for $65. And A.J. Green went to Jack for $25. Did you spend all your money last week? What the hell?
I still have $350.
Good Lord. Josh
I bought
Jack,
a bunch of cheap players. I had like 600 coming into the day, and I just got rid of all my bench players. So now like my bench is loaded up with startable people. It's not top end stars, but they're all decent.
Nice. Josh, Jack, Dave, and Kevin are the only ones with over $125 left of their fab. The notable standings from the Victoria's Secret, 7 of the 9 members that are in the league are still alive, and there are only 2 non-Victoria's Secret League members left. 8 out of 17 have been eliminated. This means that this is the midpoint of the Guillotine season, so if you survive this week, you've made it over halfway. Congratulations. Josh is in first place with 131.7 points per game. Tyler's in second with 131.4 points per game. Jack is in third with 125. Al's got 123. I've got 114. Jordan's got 108, and Foster has 98. So it's getting down there. Things are getting a little bit more tense. Things are getting a little bit more nervous. I know that I'm checking it a little bit more often than what I used to. I didn't think I'd make it this far, but hell yeah, brother, let's go. So, there's that. Let's talk a little bit about the Hood DFS Play Along Challenge. Jack, you're not in first anymore. What up?
I know. I blew it. I'm still in the top 5. I remember Garlic saying something about 1 or 2 of the teams have like double scores, so I'm not sure if it's one of them in the top 4, but I'm at worst place 5th. I saw that you're right behind me at 6th, though. You're like 3 points behind, so we're neck and neck.
Actually, I think that's false. I'm pulling it up here real quick.
Was I wrong? I looked at the standings, but
I looked at the standings as well. Did you filter them by did you filter
not the top 5 scores, but overall?
I thought I did that as well. Let's take a look here. Total scores. I'm looking at it right now. So let's see here.
Yeah.
Nikita Mitchell's in first.
963. Oh.
Yeah, so Nikita Mitchell is in first. Then Vinegar Strokes is in second. You're in third.
Oh, how'd you do that? Because it's showing total scores for me, and I'm showing 5th.
Right. That's because Skybusters and JM 1L7 or whatever it is. I think they had duplicate.
Oh,
they had
they're the ones.
the duplicate. Yeah, they had the duplicate lineups, so they are actually not in first and second place. So you are currently in third place, and I'm in fourth place in the Hood DFS. So I saw that sixth place. I'm like, I'm in fourth place, buddy. So
I'm fine with that. We'll both move up 2 spots. Either way, you're right behind me.
Yeah, I'm right there.
So
I'm having a fantastic season in that DFS, so that's been a lot of fun. So, do you want anything more to talk about it, or do you want to just wrap this thing on up?
I mean, really quick, it would be fun to bet against you since we're so close to see, like, as a straight up, we could do like a water bet thing of who beats the other person in DFS.
Well, why would I want to do that when you're already ahead of me?
I'm barely ahead of you. What is it, 17 points, and we got 100 points a week?
Yeah, all right. We'll put it on the board.
I'll spot you the 17 if it makes a difference.
Put it on the board. We'll do it.
Excellent. Okay.
All right. Okay.
Right. No, that's it for that, though.
All right. Cool. So this is going to be our show. Thank you guys, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Jack, for all your awesome work. I'm so happy to have you back here. As a reminder, you can find us on YouTube. Leave us a message. Thanks for blowing up our chat for everybody this week. We had a fantastic amount of viewers. We had a fantastic amount of content in the chat. We love you guys. Thank you very much. Please visit www.anchor.fm/thevictoriouspod to leave us a voice message. You can find us on Twitter @victoriouspod. You can email us at victoriouspod@gmail.com. Jack, do you have anything else that you want to say?
Oh, we did it. We made it this far. Really quick, I had to give one shout out to my buddy Connor, who's in a different league. He was 7-0 this week, and we did a bet. We had like 3 or 4 fantasy bets over our years to see who would win straight up. So I knocked him off in his undefeated streak. He has to do a shot of apple cider vinegar. So enjoy that, buddy. It's going to taste phenomenal. Yeah, that's just been our running bet. That's what we do every single time because we can't come up with anything better. So
do you guys like video record it?
Yeah, he put it on his Snapchat story last time and tagged me in it, and then the time before that he put it on his Instagram and tagged me in it. So I'm currently, I think, 2-0 or 3-0 against him. So he just keeps doing that as the bet because he's like, I just want to get you once. So yeah, not yet. It's bad. Gross. It's really bad. If you've never tried it, don't do it.
Gross.
It's not worth the health. Yeah, it's not worth the health benefits. So shout out to him for that. I think he's listening later. He might be one of the live viewers. And then beyond that, obviously I'm rocking my 49ers hat tonight. They're losing, as they should be, because I don't think I read somewhere, at least on offense, every single one of their starters tonight was not a player or a starter in the Super Bowl this last year. So they have a completely brand new team due to injuries and blah, blah, blah. So going to be brutal. Pulling for the 49ers, though, because no pack, no. And yeah, good luck, everyone, this week. We'll talk to you next week, too.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thanks so much for tagging along. We've had a fun ride. So good luck this weekend, Jack, and have a great one.
You too, man.